On today's show, it is Annabelle the Doll. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to the 222 Paranormal Podcast video series, Friday night video. Friday Night Live video. But today it is, Sunday night video. I know, I'm a couple days late, but on Friday night, we were actually investigating down in Newark, Ohio, which is just east of Columbus, Ohio, at the Old Licking County Jail. This place is one of the most haunted places in Ohio. It was awesome. We had a great time. The people that I went with, had tons of activity. They were seeing shadow figures. They were hearing screaming. They had great EVP sessions going on all night long. I did see in the thermal camera some action, but me, being the awesome paranormal investigator that I am, got nothing. I got nothing. The only time I saw activity was when my K2 meter was in my gearbox. It was laying in the gearbox going crazy. Don't know why. There was no batteries around it. I even showed everybody. I'm like, look at this thing. It's going crazy already. So I was expecting a wild night, and I ended up getting nothing. So I don't know. I guess you have those nights, right? But tonight we're going to talk about Annabelle the Doll. And I'm not talking the movie Annabelle, okay, which, yeah, if you like scary movies and that. And it wasn't, the doll looked completely different. It wasn't even a Raggedy Ann doll. It was like a human figure shaped doll. But anyhow, in 1970, this girl, Kendra Bernard, had a birthday. So her mom bought her this Raggedy Ann doll. Also, she was moving out and going to college. So she got an apartment with her roommate, Laura Clifton, and her fiance, Cal Randall. Okay. Now, if you see me looking down, I got my notes in front of me. You can't see it in the camera, but it is right there. And there's a weird piece of dust flying right here. I don't know. Maybe you'll pick it up as an orb, but we all know that orbs are just demons anyway. So yeah. But anyways, so 25-year-old Deidre Bernard, mother, bought her this doll. And it's a big Raggedy Ann doll. Okay. And she put it in the apartment and didn't think nothing of it. Every morning she would get up and make her bed, and she would put the doll on the bed. She would always lay it with the arms and legs stretched out on the bed. So after a while, she started noticing that the doll seemed to be moving. And she just chalked this up as her roommates either moving it or something. But after a while, she would confront the roommates and say, hey, did you guys move the doll? And they were like, no, we never moved the damn doll. We don't even like the damn doll. But no, they didn't say that. But she would confront them and say, did you guys move the doll? And they're like, no, we didn't. She's like, the doll was one morning she came in, or afternoon she came in, and the doll looked like it was pointing at something. So, I don't know. So, after a while, the activity kind of ramped up in the apartment. One day, they came home, and they noticed that the doll was sitting in a chair in the living room. Now, when they left, they knew that the doll was in the bedroom. Okay, so they come home, they open the door, the doll's in a chair, and you hear the story, it always says the doll was in a chair in front of the door, but I'm thinking more the chair was just there and the doll was there. The doll was kneeling in the chair, staring at them as they came in. Now, one, they knew that the doll was in the bedroom when they left. Two, the thing's kneeling. Okay? And if you know any of these Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls, there's no metal or anything inside of them to make it stiff. So they tried and it doesn't say if the doll fell over when they walked in or whatever. I don't know. But they tried to mimic what it was doing. They would take and put it up and try to get it to kneel. And every time they did, obviously it fell over because it's a Raggedy Ann doll. There's no metal joints or anything in it. And they were freaked out, of course. But after a while, the activity got a little worse. Okay. They would find notes written in parchment paper and pencil. Okay. Parchment paper hasn't been around since like medieval times. Okay. And what parchment paper is, it's paper made from like palm and stuff like that. It's a real thick brown paper that really people don't use anymore. And they said that they didn't have parchment paper anywhere in the apartment, and they had no pencils in the apartment, which I don't know about that, because if you think about it, I mean, college students, pen, paper, all that, but they specifically said they did not have parchment paper in the apartment. And there were notes on it like, help us, help me, and there was actually some notes that said, help Cale. Now, Cale is Deidre's fiance, Cale Randall. Now, he plays a big role in this, okay? And the notes kept saying, help Cale, and they couldn't figure that out. Well, one night, Deidre found that there was bloodstains on the doll's hands. And this freaked her out even more, because how would a doll get bloodstains on its hands? Okay, so what they did was they called in a psychic. And the psychic said that she was channeling a 7-year-old girl. And the 7-year-old girl explained to her that she would play in the fields back before this was a city. And the city that they lived in was a couple hundred years old. So they're trying to figure out when this girl actually played in the fields. So the little girl explained to the psychic that she would play in the fields, and then one time sorry about that, but she used to play in the fields, and then when the apartment complex was built, she used to play in the hallways of the apartment complex. But there was no one to play with because everybody was always at work, and she also said that people wouldn't play with her because they never saw her. Okay. Well, one day, someone brought this doll to the apartment complex, and this girl really loved this doll. And she would actually go and play with the doll when there was no one around. So you got this girl that used to play in the fields, passed away, and still played in the fields after she passed away, played in the apartment, and found this doll and started playing with the doll. And the Deidre and her roommate felt sympathy for this girl. Well, through the psychic, the girl asked if she could go into the doll and become this doll. And this girl's name was Annabelle Higgins. So they actually said, yes, you can come and be the spirit in this doll. Which makes me think, okay, I see a lot of times where we hear of these dolls that move, and there's video out there, you can see video of them, and sometimes the video, it takes all night for like an arm to move, okay? And it makes me think, well, you got to remember, on the other side, there's no such thing as time. So if the little girl's playing with the doll, it could be a split second for the girl, but it could be all night for us, okay? But it made me really think when I read this is, maybe all these dolls that we think are possessed or we think are haunted are not haunted. It's just that the spirits are playing with the dolls. And when the doll moves or that, it's just a spirit playing with it. But I don't know. So, where am I in my notes? So the haunting really ramped up. Okay. She was actually in the doll as the spirit. And the second that this happened, when they took the doll home, the activity really ramped up. Now, Cale, Deidre's fiance, was laying in bed one night, and he woke up, and the doll was actually floating above him. And before he could react, the doll clinched onto his neck and had both hands around his neck. And even though the doll was just a Raggedy Ann doll that doesn't weigh anything, he said it felt like there was a board on his neck holding him down. It was so strong he could not push the doll away. Now, I tried to find out how he got away from the doll, but it doesn't say. I can't find the information on that. So basically, we'll say he got away from the doll. So what they did was they called in a priest, and the priest said to get a hold of the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. So Ed and Lorraine Warren came in, and they said that the doll was possessed by a evil spirit, that there was actually no little girl to begin with. It was just an evil spirit or a demon that possessed the doll. And by them accepting the little girl into the doll, they allowed that demon to possess the doll. So Ed and Lorraine ended up taking the doll away, and they had a priest come in and do a exorcism on the apartment itself. So it got cleansed. I don't think that that Deidre or roommates or Cal had any activity after that. I think they were fine. But the Warrens did say that if they didn't call them in when they did, within 2 weeks, all three of them would probably have been dead. Which it makes me think, too, is would that have happened? Would the demon actually kill them? Because doesn't the demon need their negative energy to live? So I don't know. But so the Warrens ended up taking the doll, and on the way home, they had the doll in the back seat of their car, and the car kept acting up. The brakes would go out, the steering would go out. That says that they almost got into 4 accidents on the way home. By this time, Ed had enough. He reached down and he actually got some holy water and just like threw it over his shoulder at the doll and actually blessed the doll with holy water. And they didn't have any activity until they got the doll back to their house. So the Warrens, why they had the doll at their house, and they have a museum at their house. So as they had the doll at the museum now, they would see it levitate. They would hear guttural sounds come out of the doll. So they put the doll in a case, and we all seen the case that they put the doll in. And they put salt around the case to protect it, keep the entity inside the case. But people would come to the museum and actually mimic the doll. There was a priest that went there and actually kind of mimicked the doll. There was a guy and his girlfriend that went and was tapping on the glass and saying, "Oh, you're not real. You're not haunted. Come on, you're not real." And Ed was getting pissed. He's like, "Hey, dude, cut that out. Don't mess with that." And the guy was like, "This is all fake. This is nothing." And he kind of mocked the doll. They left. And 10 minutes later, they got in a motorcycle accident. Now, after the accident, the girlfriend survived and he didn't. So the guy that was mocking the doll, he didn't survive. And the girl said that they're riding home and he started laughing and the girl started laughing and they were kind of mocking the doll on the motorcycle. And all of a sudden the motorcycle went out of control, hit a tree. He died. She survived. The priest that came earlier and he kind of, I don't want to say mocked the doll because I don't know if he did or not, but he was saying that it was all fake. The doll's not haunted. When he left the Warrens, he actually got in a car wreck outside of the Warrens, and he said that his brakes went out, just like it did when Ed and Lorraine were trying to take the doll home. So the activity just ramped up. And they kept the doll in the case, and they actually, you've seen it. There's a sign on it that says "Do not open" and all that. Now, Ed and Lorraine's daughter, Judy, said that her parents told her for her never to give the doll recognition and never to look in the doll's eyes. Now, I think about that too is, okay, don't give it recognition. But if you're going to look at it, you've got to look into its eyes because it's right in front of you there. So I don't know about that. So they have a priest that comes regularly and blesses the case and blesses the doll. And they still have activity. Now, I was thinking about that. Okay, you had the people that had gotten a car wreck. Or the priest got in a car wreck. You got the girl and the guy that got in a motorcycle wreck. Other people that have mimicked that had really bad luck in their life. Just like Robert the Doll. If you go and you take pictures of Robert the Doll without his permission, you get the same thing. So, can the doll come out of the glass? I mean, the energy that the doll is actually putting out is coming out of the glass. So why do they have it in a glass case? And I don't understand how they think that it could protect people from that because things are happening. So someone actually tried. Now, I don't know if it's someone with haunted hair that has a museum in Las Vegas. They were offered the Warrens $1 million for the doll, and they said no, they're not going to ever give it up. Now, Ed passed away. Lorraine, I believe, is still around. Their son is taking over the museum. So, if you remember last year, they actually moved the doll into a new case. And when they did that, the guy actually had welding gloves on. He had like protective clothing. He didn't just wear a t-shirt. He had, protective clothing, all that. But he actually had welding gloves. And the reason why is they said that you cannot let the doll touch your skin because they said that the demon that's in there, if your skin touches the doll, it can be transferred into you and you would become possessed. So that's why when you see that video, the guy had these big welding gloves on. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that this doll can be that possessed? I don't see why not. There's so many stories of possessions and things getting into dolls. Now, I don't know why dolls particularly have that where they get possessed more than other objects, but really a lot of objects get that. And I think it has to do with like the stone tape theory. It's the same thing in these houses that we go into or the prison like I was just in. I think it has something to do with the stone tape theory where the energy is just put into there. And in this story, we know that the psychic talked to the supposed little girl that turned out to be a demon, and they actually said, yes, we allow you to go into the doll. But there's so many different objects out there that are haunted. I mean, Greg and Dana got the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal. They got a lot of activity, a lot of stuff that's active. They got Billy the Idol. And Billy the Idol, that's an amazing thing. If you ever want to hear the story about that, get a hold of them and have them tell you the story about how they found Billy. It's very interesting. And with Billy the Idol, there's actually times where they try to do EVP sessions and video with him, and things happen to the electronics to where they can't even do the video or get any evidence out of it. But it's very possessed, very haunted. And they thought that it was haunted by a negative entity, but turns out it was just like an entity that was pissed off because it was in a doll. I don't know. So, like I said, what do you think? Do you think that Annabelle was that haunted? Do you think it was true? Do you think it was just something made up? What do you think? But it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And you can still go to the museum and see Annabelle the Doll. And just go online, look up the Warrens Museum and see if it's open to the public. I'm not sure if it is or not. But it's a very interesting story. So I wanted to bring that to you. Short video tonight. Just have a little bit of fun. Like I said, if you get a chance, check it out. Check out the Old Licking County Jail in Newark, Ohio. They're open for business for paranormal investigations. It's a very haunting place. It's very cool. Very cool. I love the history, and I really enjoyed just looking at the cells and stuff, and makes me really think. Every time I go to a prison, I always think, how loud was this place? And they're always overcrowded. The Licking County Jail, the cells were 5 foot by 6 foot with 2 bunks in them. Well, it ended up each cell was housing 6 men. So you can imagine what that place was like. No heat at the beginning, no electricity. It was an open air cell. So the jail windows didn't have glass on; they just had the bars. So during the winter it was cold, and during the summer it was hot. So if you get a chance, check it out. Really cool place. I'm definitely going to go back. My friend Tracy lives right down there. She lives about 2 miles from the place, so I go down and visit Tracy all the time. And I think I'm going to book another night to where we can do another investigation there because it's super cool. And it's haunted. And the thing is, too, with Newark, and my beliefs of the Indian mounds, there is a whole complex. The city of Newark, Ohio, was a giant Indian complex, and there's still the Great Circle and the Octagon is still there. So there you go, Indian burial mounds and the haunting goes together. So anyhow, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you're watching this live, thank you. If you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you. And, get up on our website, 222 Paranormal Podcast. Check out everything we have to do. And if you want to listen to just the audio part and you don't want to see my face, just look up 222 Paranormal Podcast. We have some great shows. Our last show was about Annabelle, so I thought I'd bring you the video on it. So anyways, thanks a lot for tuning in. I'm going to leave you with some second season from Dead in 5. Awesome Detroit band. Have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. By the way, one of my favorite songs from Dead in 5.